it will be there shortly. And I'm going to start the podcast also. And we are on the air, and we are getting into Facebook shortly. So I will start by saying hello, everyone. Super excited to be here today. This is my episode number 10, Passing Joy Around the World with Misha Safran. And I am so delighted to be interviewing my friend and coaching cohort and just a wonderful person, Monifa Harris, on the topic of the coexistence of joy and pain. Mostly we're talking about joy, but with joy comes pain, and with pain comes joy. So I'm delighted that you're here and watching, and I believe Renee is watching. I'm so grateful. If you are in the Facebook group and you are watching this, I'm going to have more introduction on Monifa, but would love for your comments and thoughts in the chat room, the comment area. If you are listening on the Podbean Live podcast, you can also enter any thoughts or questions and just show us that you're here, any camaraderie that you want to offer. So Monifa is a professional voice coach and singer committed to helping those in any field discover or restore their singing voice and build overall confidence through vocal work. She has vocal programs that help professionals from all fields sing with ease, passion, and presence. And for those of you who don't know Monifa yet, that sounds just like her. So she is easy to talk with. She has great passion, and she is very present. So I just want to say that, Monifa, that's how I feel about you. So I love that you had submitted that. Yeah, absolutely. I think by now I'm very direct and very authentic, and even my children, when I say something nice, they don't even question anymore whether it's just because I'm their mother, because they know that I'm very honest. I also want to give you guys a little. Yes, mine too. That's why we connected. So I just want to share with everybody, just to finalize, it's really important for you to know my guest. She's translated her knowledge of voice, breath, and spirit to help others sing and speak authentically and with certainty, even if they never felt comfortable using their voice before. She does magic, basically. I've talked to a couple of people who are her clients, and she does magic. So Monifa would love to help you discover your true voice and inner strength for deep confidence on stage and in life. She has performed, and I didn't know this about her until I read her bio. She has performed in Florida, California, North Carolina, Washington, D.C., New York, Greece, Canada, and Bulgaria. Holy smokes. That's quite a repertoire. I'm actually curious, because I was in Bulgaria in October. Before we get onto this beautiful topic of joy, would you be willing to tell me what brought you to Bulgaria and what you sang there and why and how?
I was lucky because somebody where I lived in North Carolina, they were joining kind of this summer institute at Varna. So they were putting together a cast for Magic Flute, and I got casted in the part of Third Lady. So we got to tour Bulgaria, and it was actually the same trip because I had a friend from my grad school who lived in Greece. And so I just contacted him. I was like, I was thinking, because I was looking at flights, and it's cheaper to go through Greece.
Yes, it is. Much cheaper, actually.
Way cheaper. I spent like 3.5 weeks in Greece for the same price most people did, had to take a direct flight to Varna. So, so I stayed there, and we did some concerts in Greece. So that's when I was able to perform there.
Wow.
And so it was a really cool trip, and I can't wait to like Greece is my favorite. I can't wait to
I was going to say I've never been, but I actually was there, I think, when I was 4 years old. I don't remember any of it. My parents were in Africa for 2 years with the Peace Corps, and we were all 3 children toting with them. So
nice.
Yeah. So, but I would love to go back to Greece. It was one of my mom's favorite places to go as well. So, well, that's exciting. And I have a special affinity for you because I'm also a singer songwriter, and I keep thinking about maybe I should do some vocal coaching with Monifa. And when things quiet down a little bit, I think I will commit that to myself, because I just heard wonderful things about your coaching, and I know as a person I feel very comfortable and safe with you. So I'm delighted to be interviewing today. So thanks for taking up my request.
Of course. It was like, oh, Misha's interviewing. there. And and I so appreciate it. Like, yeah, I've heard some of your stuff. I haven't heard all of it, but I've heard some of your stuff on Facebook, and I'm just like, I love this lady. And what I love about your presentation is just, again, like always authentic, always just there to be with people. I love your energy in that.
Thank you. So for those that are listening on the podcast, I have my hand over my heart because that was very moving. I sometimes
That's
forget that the people
beautiful.
listening can't see, what we're actually doing. And I would be curious. So,
Yeah.
and actually, I guess if there are people who can't see but can hear, even if there was just the audio, that, if we think about the different populations, and I have a disability, so I'm not sure I ever thought about that before this video actively. It's like if there are people who are blind or deaf, like I guess I need to figure out a way also to do closed captions on my videos. But anyways, that's a whole
Oh,
other side thought. But it did give me joy to think about the fact that I could make my presentations a lot more accessible to all people. So interesting how that just came about in this
yeah.
little conversation we had. Oh.
Beautiful. Yes, it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
So you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Okay. So what I love is everybody who decides to take me up on an interview kind of decides to walk in without knowing any questions ahead of time, just that the topic is joy, unless they've watched previous interviews and they get an idea. I do generally use the same questions. Sometimes we get through all of them, sometimes we don't. But I would like to start with, and let me just start by saying, which I tell everyone, you don't have to answer any question you don't want to answer. Okay. There's nothing unsafe or dangerous about my questions, but sometimes it can feel like it's too vulnerable. And so just be willing to say I pass, and there will be no judgment. I make sure my audience has no judgment about a person who decides to pass. So they
Yeah.
can go off in their own world and have judgment, but here on this line, they're not gonna do that. So the first question I have is pretty mild. I don't think it's too deep, but you see. What kinds of thoughts or emotions does just hearing the word joy evoke in you? So when you say the word joy or joyful, what comes up for you?
Um, I always think of emotion as feeling because that's me in so many ways. And it feels like bubbling up. It feels like a wellspring. It feels like uh, possibility.
Mm,
Um, my thoughts on joy are just um, being glad that you're here, you know, being glad that you're here, and that it does require a certain amount of, I think, presence to begin with, and it takes a certain amount of um, optimism, at least hope.
mm,
If not optimism,
mhm,
maybe hope.
mhm.
So
Is
yeah,
that one and the
so
same? Is optimism and hope for you? I mean, you sounded like there was a difference between optimism and hope.
yeah.
What's the difference for you in those two?
For me, when I think of optimism, I think of you expect good things, right?
Mm.
That you're in a sense of expectation. You're like, oh yeah, of course it's going to be good. Yeah, I see that, and I see that, but I expect it to be
Mhm.
awesome, right? Hope
Mm.
is like you mostly see what's not working. Like hope is like this sucks. Like what the fuck is going on? Sorry, I realized I curse.
Oops. It's okay.
Sorry,
I didn't mark it as explicit,
children.
but maybe I should. It's okay.
Like WTF is going on? um,
Hey, we're
and
friends here,
still
so
you're
clearly
like,
you feel comfortable.
sorry,
It's
it's
okay.
a
I'll
pretty
do it once too,
natural.
just so that we're even. It's okay. I'll make
Yeah,
sure I put that in there somewhere.
totally what I usually do. So
Which is so cute. It's all, what just came to mind. I'm going to let you finish your thought, but what came to mind for me is when I'm talking with my kids, they're older now, they're adults, right? And so,
yeah.
but I remember when they were still kind of growing up, I never cussed in front of them. And as they got old, as one got older, my language changed for that one. And as another one got older, my language. And I remember one day I said something and I was like, oh, and my kid's like, Mom, we know you cuss.
You're like,
It was
surprise
hilarious. I'm
not.
like, oh yeah. I mean, because they really didn't hear it very much, but when, but they knew it wasn't like the first time it come out of my mouth.
That's
So
hilarious.
anyways, yeah, but that
Yes.
just brought us
And
a lot of joy, didn't it? We just laughed and had a good time
yeah,
because
that
of
was
that.
hilarious. Yes. And people like apologize to me for cursing all the time. I'm like, I'm good. I don't know why
Yeah.
people do that.
Why did you do it? Why did you apologize?
Oh, because I wasn't sure like your audience. I wasn't
Oh.
sure like if you invite kids to be joyful or I don't know. Like
No, kids are not allowed to be joyful.
no joy
Only
for you.
adults who have passed a certain age. That's hilarious.
Oh my
But what's
goodness.
funny is for the Podbean channel, it does ask you, like, is this for a certain kind of audience or whatever, or kids or whatever? And I always say
Right.
it's not for, I always say that it's not, or wait, do I say it's explicit or not? I don't remember. But I have to think every time I post it, like, okay, are kids going to be listening to this? But you know what? One time, Monifa, I think it's going to be okay.
We'll make it. I don't think I'll be the first one they've heard it from. We'll say it like that.
I don't think so either. Now they know you're truly human. Yay, go coaching with
Yes.
Monifa.
Oh
Anyway, sorry, go
man.
ahead. Let's try to finish. Where were
Yeah.
we?
So yeah, so like I was trying to like the difference, right? Optimism,
Right.
hope, right? Hope
Yes.
for me is like it can be dismal, right? Like you are just it's super dismal for you and your perspective, and you're just hoping for better. You're just hoping for better.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for clarifying that with your interpretation. I saw an
Yeah.
acronym not too long ago for the word hope. So it was H.O.P.O. I mean, .E. They did it
That, Popo. Sorry.
I got Popo. Oh, it's hot in here.
Happier.
Yeah.
Saying.
But anyways, hope with an E, not hopo with an O, actually stood for hold on, pain ends.
Okay.
It was quite empowering because
Beautiful.
I've suffered from depression. I have chronic pain. And you know what? When I can
Mm,
hold on and breathe and process what I'm feeling, like physically or emotionally, the pain does end. And that is a
yes.
definition for me of hope as well. And as a result, the word joy really feels solid, really feels joyful to me. And that's why my group is called Authentic and Wholehearted Joy, because I
Mm,
really want people to dive in to figure out what's blocking that joy. And I think that, as somebody who's been optimistic for a long time, there certainly that's helped me, to be optimistic, to have an outlook that's like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And even right now, it is okay. There's just a few moments like, and actually, here we go. I'm going to cuss. Ready? Are you braced yourself. They say when one door closes, another one opens. But man, those hallways are a bitch. But I have the optimism from closing one door that takes me to the next door opening. And I have the hope.
mm,
And I think because of that internal joy that I can cultivate myself, I'm able to do that. And so I'm curious, and this is not a question that's on my sheet, it's just the way it's going into our conversation, which I love to do this with all people. I love to just let it wander. The
yeah.
idea of optimism, joy, and hope, if you were to put them on a continuum, oh, that's a scary question. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. I don't know that I've
Yeah.
ever tried it myself, but where would you place these on a person's development or on Lifeline or, and if you can't answer, you
Yeah.
don't answer.
I always lines. Look at the lines. But if I had to, you know, for me, it would be hope, optimism, joy, because um, hope and optimism aren't certain.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like joy is a thing. Like you're there,
Mm-hmm.
you're not, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, and I feel like those others are on the way there,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But what my mind was like, I don't like this question, and the reason why,
Good.
reason
I'm challenging
why,
you.
is because I think of everything as cyclical, or
Mm.
um, as or that, or it's not or, it's and, you know, we're
Mhm.
complex human beings. We never
Yes, we
have
are.
just one emotion.
Yeah.
If you're having one emotion, you know, good for you. But the, for me, but for me, it's like 1,000 at all times.
Mhm.
Like there's so many different things I could tap into if I chose,
Mhm. So
and
my
I
podcast,
choose certain
yeah, go ahead.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. Now my podcast is mixed genders, and so
Uh-huh.
I don't know if anybody's listening to this, and they might, and I'm going to take a risk because we're live streaming into my Facebook group where it's all women. So I'm
Okay.
wondering, the single emotion, do you think that that's a male masculinity thing and multiple emotions is a feminine thing? It's
I
a
think the
we just
ability
totally stretched into out of joy. But anyways, I was curious.
is totally, I think it's a totally valid question. I think it feels that way, but I think
Mhm,
all humans have the multitude.
mhm,
Men are not good multitaskers. And that's like to me as a huge generalization, and it's not true. But at the same time, they like to focus on one thing at a time.
mhm,
So
mhm,
they're either, you know, happy, or they're either, you know, focused and working, or they're, you know, they choose something and then they stick with it.
mhm,
And
mhm. Which has its assets too, right? I mean,
it
there are
is.
liabilities and assets. Like that's an asset, right? To be able to go, shoom, I'm right there. Unless they're really angry, that's different.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole nother
So
thing.
a whole other thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'd be curious for the people who are listening in the podcast and the people who are watching, if you guys have any opinions about you guys, I don't know what genders I have watching anywhere, so, or listening, but if you have opinions on anything that Monifa and I have discussed so far about joy, optimism, hope, if you have thoughts or reflections on masculine, feminine, like I would love to read your comments, and it may be after the interview, but anybody that has anything to say, please feel free to put it in there and I will check on it. So actually, so let's sidetrack. Let's try sidetrack back to, let's go back to our topic.
Uh-huh.
So what is your definition of joy for you? Not
For
necessarily for the
me,
world, for you. Yeah.
my definition of joy, um, I'm not good with definitions for the same reason. Like I have a like I'm special. And when
Yes,
I
you
say that,
are.
it's not always felt like a good thing. I don't have random words. Like one of the reasons why I'm really good at being present is that I don't have a stream of consciousness. Like I I saw this as an article, blog, whatever you want to call it, that some people have like just words that are constantly kind of going through their head. Um, and and I think it's the majority of people, and I do not. Like if I'm not
Mm.
consciously thinking about something, it's silence. It's just
Oh
like
my God, how beautiful.
so. Yeah, it
I'm feeling
sounds great.
envy, or am I feeling jealous? Now, see, those are two words we have to explore. Oh no.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
But what that's one of the reasons why words are really powerful for me, because I feel like I had to understand them again by dissecting my feelings first and then assigning it to what was happening on the outside. I think it's one of the reasons I'm like a voracious reader, especially of
Yeah.
romance, because again, it gives me words to define feelings that aren't very clear. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
and and so yeah, I don't have like a specific definition, and honestly everything I do is kind of a translation of what I'm feeling and trying to like help y'all understand that, like.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're
So
good. Again, no judgment. There's no judgment, Monifa. You say whatever you
yeah,
gotta say.
so yeah, so I, you know, when I think of joy, it's just a feeling of warmth. It's a feeling
Mhm,
of of just of gladness, of and overflow. Yeah.
Mm.
Like when I'm joyful, like, I could be happy and I'm very good at being happy by myself. Like I could be very
Yeah, me too.
happy.
Me
I'm
too.
very
My kids
content.
always say, "Mom, you don't need anybody to laugh at your jokes. You don't need any." I'm like, you're just
Yeah.
fine, Mom. You
I'll laugh by myself in the corner, you
totally.
know, however y'all see that, that's what it is. And but joy to me is a overflowing. Like a joy has to be shared, right?
Mm,
Because there's like you can't contain it all. It's like an
mhm,
overflow,
I love that.
That's what
One of
that's
our
what it
listeners
means.
on the podcast channel said, "Joy is to live with love." How does that land for you?
Ooh, I love that.
I know, right?
Yes.
Oh, and don't we hope that is where our country is heading?
God.
As an individual, I do feel like I live with love for as many possible people. I mean, even those that I don't like, I still love because everyone's going through something, even the people who aren't very nice, and so
Yeah.
for me, that internal, like I really resonate with the warmth that you talked about. And for me, there's like a sense of peace inside
Mm.
and just I love what that person said was, and I usually don't give people's names, but the fact that joy is to live with love. Yeah, that's really,
I love
really
that.
powerful. Yeah. All right, we have time for
Mm.
maybe one more question, maybe two. um, do you find that you need to create joy for yourself or it comes naturally?
For me, I think it's more of a creation. Um, it's I feel like naturally I get super contemplative. Um, I take on a lot of emotions from the world and from
Mhm.
uh and
Another
so
empath?
yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Hey.
I'm
Um
empath too.
I, I am so there. I gosh, and I say that and I'm like one of those things that I don't like to like certain words because of the perception of
Mhm,
that people bring with them.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I think, when we use empath, we like kind of designate it as special people thing. That's one of the reasons why I don't always say singer when my marketing, because people think that's a special people thing. Um,
Interesting.
and it's not a special people thing. We all
Mm-mm,
have our sensibilities, right?
absolutely.
And either you're acknowledging them or you're not, period.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
um, but yes, I mean, I think in ways that I wish was a little different. Like everything's based on my emotion.
Mm,
Everything's based on my emotion. So if things are going wrong, used to be if things are going wrong around me. If I was picking up, I would pick up on anxieties and pain in other people.
mhm,
And I was super sensitive, not wanting to exacerbate that pain or cause a new
mhm,
one. Like
mhm.
just saw people hurting each other everywhere. That's like something that was very present to me as a child. And
Yeah.
so that was my language for a long time because
Mhm,
that, like I just said, like I internalized that and that became my language,
mhm,
right? Um, and so it took a long time basically to unwrite that language
mhm,
and to make choices to use a new one. And so to me, that
mhm,
was a creative work
mhm, mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is some people will automatically judge themselves by saying that they're not a joyful person or they're not a happy person or they're not, there are some other words, a positive person, like they always see the glass half empty, whatever it is. But in that
Mm,
sense, yeah, there are people that aren't born that way. They feel happy, they're positive, but it can be created. And I think what you're
yes.
speaking to is that we don't always grow up with that assurance, but we can create it. It's a work in progress. I like to say we're masterpieces in progress, and it does take
Yes.
time and it does take effort if that's what we want our goal to be. And
Yes.
from my work with my clients, the more that they develop this internal peace and warmth and calm, the more joyful they feel. And for
Mm,
some of them, it is not something that comes naturally. They have to work at, they have to create a daily discipline to really offer themselves this opportunity to feel authentic and wholehearted joy.
mm-hmm. For
How does it
sure.
manifest in your work with your clients? What have you noticed as you work with your
All
clients?
the
Because I
time.
know you've
Yeah.
seen some smiles and some hearts just all of a sudden radiate love for themselves.
Oh, it's my addiction, if you want to call it that. Like, that's one of the reasons I love what I do. Um, and yeah, it's for me, it comes from just connecting back to ourselves. Um, and really not just, and for I feel like I don't feel like based on a lot of theories that I have been reading and that I know from experience. Um, it's not easy for a discerning mind to be joyful. It's not something that's going to come naturally. You know, I I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way. If you're discerning, you're seeing all that is not right, right? And if and so it's something that you have to decide, number one, that you're going to say, okay, this is what I see and this is who I am, you know? And so for me, it's really one of those things that you want to continually come back to yourself, and you need a process for that, and if it was natural, then you wouldn't be the person that can see and understand and then transform what's going on around you. You need support for that. I know, like, I just, there's no other way to say it. You need support for that because you don't want to lose what you came to the world with. Discernment
Right.
is invaluable,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
the more discerning you are, the more likely you're having problems with joy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like it's so funny because I feel the same exact way about singing, about voice. If you're drawn to the work, then you probably don't consider yourself a singer unless you've had support around that. So if you've had the opposite of support, which again is part of a lot of our experiences, even in joy, like we've had traumatic family experiences, nurturing environments were not nurturing, like all of those things. It's the same thing with voice. You probably have had a lot of criticism. You have probably have a lot of comparisons. You're probably so discerning that there's major issues, right? Like, and so it's really hard to be happy with your voice when you're discerning,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So really that work, it becomes one and the same. It becomes one and the same of getting into what your voice is for you instead
Right.
of always seeing it as how it's affecting the world, how it's affecting others. You know, I think joy's that process is very much the same process. It's like, yeah, if you're always looking externally, if you're always comparing the externals, it's very hard to get into a place of joy. And
Yeah.
it can only happen when you're in relationship to yourself.
Yes. That is so important. Can you say that one last sentence again? Because that is something I tell my clients all the time. Say it again, Monifa.
Yeah. Joy, a real joy, authentic joy, the joy that Misha can help you find is only happens when you're in relationship to yourself. Yeah. Like it's just true. It's just true.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
not just that they find with Misha, they find with Monifa. I mean, what you do, I think when
We can
people
find with
get
me.
more connected to their voice, they can feel that joy as well, right? I
Oh,
mean, the
there's
more we
nothing
connect.
like it.
Yeah,
There's nothing
exactly.
like it.
Exactly.
Again, because we're discerning people, like we need the experience as proof, but we can't have the proof until we have the experience.
Yeah.
And voice is one of the few places you can get that, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't even realize this until now with you saying that. My 9-month program for my lesbian, bisexual, queer, trans identified women is called Voice from Heart. And I just
Oh,
realized it. I know. And
beautiful.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, this flows like so perfectly with what you and I are talking about. It's like that, the heart, the voice,
Yes.
it all blends so beautifully.
Amazing.
It is amazing. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be my guest today. I feel like that was a really riveting conversation. I just realized that I don't know if both voices came out on my podcast, so I might have to upload the audio later because I'm wearing my AirPods, and usually when I do it, it's just into the I don't know how the sound transferred. We'll find out. If there are people still listening to the AirPod that can give me some feedback, that would be great. I don't know. But I know that one of the things that I asked you to do is if there was something you wanted to offer the audience, whether my viewers or my listeners, that I would welcome you to make an offer. And I think you said that you had a free gift that you wanted to present. Did you want to tell people about that and give them a little more details about who you are and what you actually do? I mean, even though I read the introduction,
Yes.
like,
Well, yes, like what I do is I help people, especially non-singers who are longing to sing, to really discover their singing voice and to build confidence. So a lot of what we talked about today is what we offer, and to get vocal in any way that they need to get vocal. So for most of my clients, that means their businesses. They just need to show up more.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And a lot of just general public, it's just that they need to explore what's going on with their voice. So
mm-hmm,
um, I have access to my Get Vocal sequence, which really just allows you to get to know what your voice is made up of and like how it
mm,
works, and then to try things on in a way that's actually going to get you some progress instead of just analyzing what's going wrong all the time.
yeah.
Um, and so there's that, and there's my group where we support each other in however we want to show up.
Mm-hmm,
And so it's a very supportive environment, and I encourage people to go there. We also talk about things like building community
mm-hmm,
online.
mm-hmm,
And what does that mean? What does it mean to be in a
mm-hmm.
supportive community? Because I
Mm.
think we have a lot of bad examples of that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so I have a series of that in the group as well.
terrific. Okay. And then did you
Yeah.
have a gift you wanted to offer and let people know, and I'll
Oh,
put the link in for
the
you or for them to
sorry, I
access it if
forgot
there's
about the other thing.
that's okay.
So
No, that's
also I wanted to invite
fine.
y'all to have a conversation with me. If you're interested in knowing what your energy, so your astrological energy says about your superpower when it comes to your voice, like what specifically did you come into the world with that will make your showing up authentic and memorable when you use your
Mm,
voice, then
mm,
you can talk to me on a one-on-one, and we can have that conversation together where I make up a chart that I created out of a combination of human design and Western astrology. And we just get really deep into what makes you show up and express in your life and in your voice a certain way.
love that. Okay. When you'll get me the
Yeah.
link so I can share that with everybody.
Yeah, that was the
Okay.
Calendly link where they can just go ahead and
Oh,
schedule.
was that what you sent me through Messenger the other day? Or is that what I
Messenger?
used to? Oh, okay. You know
No,
what?
it was on Gmail. Oh, did I put something
Oh,
different in the?
yeah, send it to me again and I will, or you can even post it underneath the live thing here we're doing in the Facebook group, and then I'll put it on the pod bean. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I scheduled the
That's
thing
okay.
so long ago. I forgot which
I
one
know
I
it's
gave
okay.
you.
I think I forgot to get back to you on that, so it's no big deal. So we'll just
It's all
say
good.
thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you for those who are listening. Again, I don't know if the podcast recorded both voices or not. But again, this is Misha Safran, and I am the founder of the group Authentic and Wholehearted Joy, as well as the podcast channel. And well, this one is called Passing Joy Around the World, but my podcast is Existence Between Joy and Pain. And we have to come through pain to feel joy. And sometimes we have to let go of joy to feel the pain so that we can find more joy. But I am looking forward to more podcasts and interviews. And yeah, thanks again for being with us, Monifa. Do you have anything, last
It's
thing you
all
want to say to
good.
the listeners or audience?
No, just thanks for listening. And yeah, I appreciate you inviting me here and like giving me time to express myself. So yeah, have a
Awesome.
great rest
Yeah.
of your day, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to end the podcast. And then I'm also going to stop live streaming into the Facebook. I'm learning all this stuff. I forgot to record us, but this it'll be in the Facebook.